What is better, Dota or League of Legends? This question has been asked and argued by fans of the MOBA genre for many months now that Dota 2 was announced. And especially now that Dota 2 is playable and we can actually take a better look at how the game is doing, as well as what features it brings. This is going to be an unbiased video discussing the differences between the two games in a manner to make it simple for you to understand and make a conscious decision when deciding which game you will play. The first and most important difference between the two games is the difficulty that each game possesses. League of Legends is known for its accessibility and forgiving nature, while Dota is known for its complexity and depth. Not to say that Dota is unplayable by a new player, nor that League of Legends has no depth, it's just that they take different routes in gameplay style. So, why is one harder than the other? 1. In League of Legends, deaths are not punished as hard as they are in Dota 2. In Dota 2, when you die, you lose gold, whereas in League, you don't. In both games, you suffer the usual respawn timer, as well as the potential loss of experience you would have otherwise gotten if you were alive. 2. Gold is also harder to come by in Dota 2. In League of Legends, you get a hefty steady flow of gold every few seconds, whereas in Dota 2 is not that much. This, plus the fact that you lose gold when you die in Dota, means that it's harder to get those items you need to continue being relevant in the game. So in League of Legends, even if you don't kill anyone nor manage to effectively farm your lane, you're still able to buy your basic items. This is especially true for support characters. Whereas in Dota, you need to pay much more attention to last hitting minions and or getting those assists to get your gold, as well as obviously not dying. 3. Towers in League of Legends are stronger than in Dota 2. This means that it is harder for the opposite team in League of Legends to dive you while you lay under your turret. So for the first levels, your tower is a safe haven where whoever tries to touch you could easily die. In Dota 2, even though the towers still do a good amount of damage and it would be detrimental for the opponent team to try to take you on while under one of those, it is still easier to kill you while under one rather than what it would be in League of Legends. 4. The champion's design differs greatly between the two games. Think of it as a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being overpowered and 1 being underpowered. In League of Legends, most champions are between the 4 and 6 in terms of power. Because of this, damage is not that spiky and burst is controlled. Crowd control is also measured in a ways that in normal scenarios you can escape doom even if you made a mistake. In Dota 2, champions are between the 7th and the 9th in the scale. Champions are made to be extremely powerful by themselves, and some either possess tremendous burst damage or incredible crowd control prowess. This makes it so that you're punished harder for mistakes while battling, as making the wrong decision could potentially kill you outright. While on the topic of champion design, the designs for the champions in League of Legends are simple in essence, while the avatars in Dota 2 are more complex. In League of Legends, it doesn't take long before you understand how a character works and how to play him effectively. Mechanics in the attacks vary from character to character, but just by reading the short text one can understand how they work and how to best utilize them. In Dota 2, spells have more mechanics attached to them than in League of Legends, and oftentimes require some playtesting to fully understand, as they have more depth to them. Both skill systems are relatively similar though, having 3 normal skills and 1 powerful ultimate skill, with the exception of some avatars having different triggers that adds new spells to them in both games. 5. The items in the games are similar in mechanics but differ greatly in design. They also give Dota 2 more depth, while League of Legends likes to keep it simple. In League of Legends, you have attack damage and ability power as offensive stats. Attack damage empowers the damage you do with your auto attacks, as well as most physical damaging abilities, while ability power empowers magical damaging abilities. You also have health, armor, and magic resist as defensive stats. Armor reduces the amount of physical damage you take, and magic resists the amount of magical damage you take. It's pretty self-explanatory. In Dota 2, you have 3 main stats: strength, agility, and intelligence. Strength increases health and health regen. Agility increases attack speed and armor, while intelligence increases mana and mana regen. Champions are also separated into these three main categories, and if you equip them with the stat of their respective category, then they get an extra 1 point of attack damage per stat point. So if my character is agility based and I give him plus 5 agility, he also gets plus 5 extra damage on his auto attacks, besides the attack speed and armor from the actual stat. Dota 2 also has health stats, attack damage stats, and armor stats, which are self-explanatory. This means that in Dota 2, you cannot empower the damage of your spells by stats, only through whatever mechanic the spell provides and or by increasing the levels of the spell itself. There is an item, however, that allows you to empower the power of your ultimate. It is also worth mentioning that there are more items in Dota 2 that has active abilities, while in League of Legends most items are passive. There is a balance between the two, however, in lane sustenance. In League of Legends, regardless of champion pick, you get a spell that teleports you back to your shop pool, which speeds up the process of you healing and coming back to your lane. In Dota 2, you get the ability to buy teleport tomes that allow you to teleport to any friendly structure in the map. It has better usage than the teleport spell from League of Legends, but it costs you 150 gold to buy each use, while also using up an item slot. In Dota 2, however, you can opt to buy a courier that you can control and carry items for you from the pool towards your lane. Those are all the differences between the two games that define Dota 2 as having more depth and League of Legends as being more accessible. But what are the other differences between the two? Hear me out. Because gold is harder to come by in Dota 2, when someone does manages to accrue a fortune and starts to carry the game, it is much harder to stop him and is easier for said carry to snowball into complete dominion. This is because as said carry kills weaker foes, those weaker foes will lose gold, so every time this carry kills someone, the gap between these players will increase and increase. In League of Legends, the snowballing effect is not as prevalent. The reason for this is that, as mentioned before, you don't lose gold when dying, but also, very importantly, the steady flow of gold is higher in League of Legends, which means that even though the weaker opponent dies over and over and is not able to farm appropriately, he will still have sufficient gold to buy counter items to the carry. This allows for the underdog team to have a higher chance of countering the fed carry and succeed in a turnover. On the other hand, exactly for the same reasons and mechanics, when a player leaves the game or disconnects in League of Legends, it is extremely difficult to come back, while in Dota 2, even if a player leaves the game, the chances of still winning are relatively high when compared to League of Legends. This is because if the game is 4 versus 5, when the underdog team has a carry that is relatively fed, he could literally count for 2 players easily in Dota. Whereas in League, each player is more balanced towards each other in terms of gold income than in Dota, which makes it so that the disadvantage of a missing player is felt much more. In both Dota 2 and League of Legends, you get a boss NPC that when killed yields massive rewards in terms of experience, gold, buffs, and or items. In League of Legends, however, there is also a mini-boss that when killed yields gold for the entire team. This mini-boss is able to be killed by certain characters wearing certain items by themselves, but usually requires team participation of at least 3 to defeat it early on, which promotes team play early on in League of Legends. There is no mini-boss in Dota 2. Both games have buffs lying on the map for those who are willing to take them. In Dota 2, they lie in the river unprotected but heavily contested by both teams, so the challenge of grabbing them is fighting the opposite team. In League of Legends, the buffs are guarded by golems that are stronger than the usual forest NPC. When killed, the buff will be granted to the one who did the killing blow on the golem. There are 4 golems on the map, 2 on each side of the field. There is virtually no challenge to grabbing these buffs late game, as the golems are just simply not strong enough, but in the beginning of the game they can prove to be a challenge for those who are not wearing the necessary early game gear, and oftentimes require help of multiple players. Again, this reinforces team play early on in the game of League of Legends. As you can tell, League of Legends is more team-oriented than Dota 2, especially during the early to mid stages of the game. In Dota 2, you can excel easier by yourself and you don't really need teammates until late game when full 5 versus 5 battles rage in the battlefield. Jungling, which is the act of farming NPCs in the forest instead of being in the lane, is present in both games. This provides a different style of gameplay to the usual style when a player is looking for something different. Jungling, as is to be expected, is easier to pull off in League of Legends than in Dota 2. In League of Legends, almost any melee character and a good chunk of the casters can jungle, as the minions are balanced in a way so that it can be done by most characters, as long as they can buy the proper gear in the beginning of the game. In Dota 2, however, it is not necessarily intended for this to work with more than a handful of characters, namely those with really powerful lifesteal or champions that are able to summon minions or control minions. For this reason, it is really hard to jungle in Dota 2 by the beginning of the game, but by mid-game is easier, although it becomes less effective. The last difference between these two games that I want to talk about is champion selection and out-of-game mechanics. In Dota 2, all characters are already open and available for you to use from the very beginning, while in League of Legends it's a little more complicated than that. In League of Legends, there will be a batch of free champions to choose from. This batch of free champions changes every week. By playing games, you get IP points, which you can spend to buy whichever champion you want. The champion you buy will be open for you to choose from then on indefinitely. Dota 2 has a bigger roster of champions in total than League of Legends. Mentioning exact amounts is counterproductive as both companies are releasing new champions every now and then, but suffice to say that Dota 2's roster is significantly bigger. These IP points that you get in League of Legends can also be used to purchase special runes to equip your League of Legends account. These runes vary from extra damage to health to armor, etc. A player with a full rune book will start the game with stronger stats than someone who does not. The difference in stats is not that big and is barely noticeable, but it's there. And it's worth mentioning that you can buy these runes with real life money, which can put certain players not willing to spend the IP or money on these runes at a small disadvantage early in the game. Your League of Legends account also has a level of its own, much like Dota 2. In both Dota and League of Legends, this level defines who your opponents are going to be in the matchmaking system. In League of Legends though, besides the IP points, there are also Riot points, which are essentially points that you buy with real life money. You can use these points to buy champions, runes, or extra features to your account like faster IP accrual or even faster account experience. It's worth mentioning that League of Legends is a free game, and that is the reason why this Riot point system exists. It is also worth mentioning that Dota 2 also has a cosmetic store, but these things are subject to change at any time and does not affect the actual gameplay of these games, with the exception of the rune system in League of Legends. It is also important to know that in League of Legends you have 3 different maps. The original 5 vs 5 modes that we all know and love with 3 lanes, a 3 vs 3 mode with 2 lanes, and an entirely different game style called Dominion, where you control flags in a circular battlefield with faster gameplay. Dota 2 currently only has the original 5 vs 5 map with 3 lanes. These are all the main differences between these two games. I can't stress enough though that this is not to say that Dota is unplayable by a new player, not that League of Legends has no depth. In fact, I know countless players just trying out Dota 2 for the first time without playing neither the original nor any other MOBA and saying just how much addictive it really is. And at the same time, League of Legends has a very strong competitive scene, as League of Legends is featured on MLG, which is known as the king of competitive gaming. So don't pay attention to the tags that people put into these games, you can make your own decisions. After everything is said and done, the better player will always win, regardless of which one you decide to go with, so it all depends on your flavor and style of gameplay, and hopefully this video helped you decide which one is made for you. Please remember to leave a like and comment on which one of the two is your favorite. Also remember to follow me on Facebook, link is in the description. Have a nice day guys.
Radiant victory!
Night reigns forever!